Welcome to the show. My name is Uberman. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Gay adoption is bad. And by bad, I don't mean it's less than ideal. I mean that it's evil. Now, I realize that I'm going to start a firestorm off in the comments section by making that simple assertion of fact, which I will justify on the show today. But often the response I will get back from stating something like I just said is something that sounds, well, something like this. So you're telling me you'd rather have a child raised by two straight parents who slap that child every day than two gay, loving people? You're telling me you'd rather have two straight parents who regularly set their child on fire than two loving, well-adjusted gay people? That's what you're saying to me? And of course, my response to that is that's retarded. But also, that's very telling that you immediately jump to those kind of excessive and ridiculous examples. It shows how years of the LGBTQ agenda have intentionally and emotionally taken its toll. And make no mistake, those kind of shame-based, ridiculous arguments are part of the strategy laid out by Kirk and Madsen in their book, After the Ball. In fact, it's called jamming. And the strategy is aimed at making people like myself seem unserious and bad for stating a perfectly obvious fact. And the reason I'm bringing it up at the beginning of the show today is I want to talk about gay adoption, but I also want to do it within the confines of this.
But we're seeing the newborn baby girl who the couple says is not biologically theirs.
Documents show the baby girl was born in December through IVF, thanks to the Fertility Center of Orlando. The couple, who is white, soon realized the baby is not, and genetic testing revealed their baby girl isn't theirs.
The couple is begging for answers from the clinic and Dr. Milton McNichol, who they say implanted the embryo.
Now, the reason I show you this picture is not to simply decry IVF, although I do not believe that it is moral. I understand that this couple is probably struggling. They want to have a child, and as a conservative, I'm all for it. I think you should have kids. I think moms and dads and stable households should be raising children, and we need more of that, especially if you're a God-fearing family. But I have to tell you, IVF and gay surrogacy and gay adoption opens up a world of trouble that I just think we need to be honest about. It's time for us to get real about this issue and not be afraid of telling what we all know. And that is that if this couple could have this happen to them, then we have to be honest about the Pandora's box that we are opening by trying to subvert the natural order. And yeah, I'll go ahead and go on record and just tell you that if you are a couple that is struggling to have a child, I care about you, I'm praying for you, and I'm sorry for that difficulty. It is a great thing to have children of your own. But I just think you should pray and you should trust God. And if necessary, you should adopt. I think that all of the other options that are on the table have been brought to us by a fully secular world that does not ultimately prioritize the care of a child. And I think that picture is just part and parcel of this problem, because I can go on to show you other problems. What you're watching on the screen right now, while you're trying to hold your food down, is, of course, a TikTok gay influencer who just ordered a child and is now raising that child and another child with his gay boyfriend or partner or whatever. And this couple shows up all the time online showing off their children in a way that seems incredibly odd, not just because of the way the two act and dress, but because they say things like this.
Confessions of a New Dad. I have never been more in love in my entire life. Nathan is with Dylan in the NICU, and I'm in the room with Kyle, and they're just perfect. I love them so much. They're gorgeous. They're already so advanced, so perfect.
Advanced? Your baby's advanced. Do you remember ever the loving, doting parents of a child saying, "Look at how advanced my baby is," rather than, "He's perfect just the way he is," regardless of any of that other stuff? And besides, how advanced is a baby? Two gay men don't have the nurturing capacity to actually understand that advanced is not exactly the most important thing that you can say about a child, or even something that you should say. It's a child and it's a baby. I don't even know what you mean by advanced. Anyway, you'll notice throughout this that I do get a little bit frustrated through all of this, but ultimately I only am because adoption and gay surrogacy and IVF opens the door to this kind of thing. So here's a throuple that's raising their child that they purchased through surrogacy in California. Here is a viral video of two gay men who purchased a child, and it was revealed later that one of them is a child sex offender. Now, I want to laser-like focus, not really on IVF today, but on gay surrogacy and gay adoption, simply because I do not believe it is good for children. And the first thing I have to say about this is just gay couples are not really that well adjusted, frankly. And you can look at this when you look at the separation rates. So the most kind of tenuous relationship, I suppose, that's out there is two lesbian women because they separate more so than heterosexual or homosexual male couples. I guess it's hard for women to even live with women. I don't know what you make of that stat, but obviously there is another group of people that break up and are more sexually promiscuous than other couples, and that is gay couples. And while the gay activists will tell you that two gay men are more stable than a heterosexual couple, of course the stats don't point to that at all. Unfortunately, it's hard to really find this, but the best data I could find on this is that lesbian couples have the most separation and gay couples have the second most, and then heterosexual couples are underneath that. I don't like divorce regardless, but obviously when it comes to those who are more stable and do better raising children, it's going to be a heterosexual couple that raises better, well-adjusted children that aren't living a sexually deviant lifestyle. Now, I will justify that even further in just a moment, but the second thing I want to say about this is that gay couples are not biologically complementary. In other words, women are not men and men are not women, so you can't just substitute one for the other, right? I understand that the left is very, very adamant about making us understand that the distinction between men and women don't actually exist and they cannot define what a woman is. I understand all of that. And single-handedly, they've totally, well, at least attempted to try to erase all of the work that the sexual revolution and women's lib movement did in the 60s and 70s, because now women can be men and men can be women, and there is no such thing as women's rights because men can have those rights too. So they've single-handedly tried to erase all of the work that was done by the civil rights movement and beyond, especially as it pertains to women. But we all know that you cannot substitute a very effeminate gay man for a woman. As much as they try to erase women, they actually can't. The traits of a woman can't be learned. You know why? Because they are biologically engineered in women. So women aren't just, I guess, men who talk funny, right? They're not just men who wear dresses. Women are different than men. And it is clear. Children need the influence of a male in their life, and they need the influence of a woman in their life. And it isn't enough that you will just have your kids regularly around female influences. They need the influence of a nurturing biological mother in their life. Hey, we'll get back to the show in just a moment, but I want to make sure that you have liked this show and subscribed. Do one of the two because God's favor will rest upon you if you do that. But also you can go one further step. You can go the extra mile like Jesus commanded, and you can go over to sweetandsavoryclassroom.com. They are our sponsor today, and if you go over to Sweet and Savory Classroom, you can sign up for a wonderful class. If in the past you've heard me give this ad and you have never signed up, what are you waiting for? The experience of a lifetime awaits you in their online or in-person cooking class. So go to sweetandsavoryclassroom.com, and when you sign up, use the promo code IndieThinker for a discount on your order. And the third one, and honestly, this is a super important one, but I understand that this one isn't that strong of an argument in terms of being able to empirically prove this, but we all know this is true. Kids want to know their real mom and dad. It's biologically ingrained in every single kid to say, who's my real dad, if they're not around their real father. Now, that isn't to suggest that if a parent is deceased or if a stepdad is in the picture, that he cannot play the role of a father. But we all know that it's just playing the role of the father, but he will never truly be, in every sense of the word, everything that he was supposed to be as a biological father to that kid. So I understand the objection. If a kid can't have his biological father or mother, isn't it better for him to at least have two parents? And the answer to that is no. Biology matters. A kid needs a mother and a father. At the very least, he needs a mom and a dad to adopt him and not two gay men. Now, the fourth thing is this, is that the data favors biological families obviously. The objection here will be that kids just need stability, financial and emotionally. And all of the data points actually to the opposite. Now, when I say all the data, I mean all the legitimate data. Because of course, you can find any cherry-picked study out there that you want, and you might say that I'm even doing the same, but mine is based on nature, common sense, and biology, and so forth. But of course, I asked ChatGPT just to see what it would tell me, because I kind of figured that it would tell me what I'm about to tell you. I asked it to give me the most robust, peer-reviewed studies that it could that show that heterosexual families are superior to homosexual families. And of course, it told me that it is morally objectionable to give you the data for that study. So I had to go to Grok, and of course, Grok did not disappoint. So here are some really important studies that show the importance of heterosexual couples, biological couples, raising children. So this first study was done in 2012, and it's the New Family Structures study by Dr. Mark Regeneris, and he's an associate professor of sociology at University of Texas at Austin. And he addressed each of the three main problems with earlier studies. His research found that similar to children from non-intact families, those children who at some point during their childhood lived with one parent and the parent's same-sex partner faced on average significantly worse than children of married biological parentage on a multitude of measures, including their educational progress as children and eventual employment and dependence on public assistance in adulthood. His study admittedly could not determine the cause of these differences, but the mere presence seriously challenges the notion that the no differences conclusion exists. In other words, one of the first things that I'll be accused of when I use these studies is causation correlation. And indeed, it is difficult to trace back exactly what is taking place in the lives of these kids. And there's many factors to take into account. And the industry, quite frankly, is not really that interested in showing how homosexual couples might be a factor in any of these things. But it is undeniable that there's no difference between gay couples and biological heterosexual couples. There's no difference between those two things. That conclusion is non-fact based whatsoever. It's an emotional appeal. And of course, it is given to us typically by doctors who don't have the spine to tell us what we all already know. But there is a doctor who did have a spine, and Dr. Donald Paul Sullins, a professor of sociology at the Catholic University of America, recently published a series of studies that are among the most methodologically sound on the subject of same-sex parenting, controlling for child sex, age and race, and parents' education and income. Dr. Sullins finds that children of parents in same-sex relationships fare significantly worse than those of opposite-sex parents on 9 of 12 measures of emotional development problems and their use of mental health treatment. In general, children of parents in same-sex relationships are about 2 to 3 times more likely to experience such problems. Now, Sullins will also go on, and he will claim that having same-sex parents increases the likelihood of suffering from depression, abuse, parental distance, and obesity, and concludes that households with gay or lesbian parents may be problematic or dangerous for the dignity and security of their offspring. There's also this study from the Journal of Marriage and Family. U.S. data showed cohabitating same-sex couples had higher dissolution rates than different-sex cohabitating or married couples. Lesbian couples often have higher dissolution or divorce rates than both gay, male, and heterosexual couples. Studies showed that within a 10-year period, lesbians were 41% of the couples that divorced, compared to 22% of heterosexual couples and 27% of gay male couples. See, I told you the separation rates is different. And then the American College of Pediatrics, of course, released this famous study now that for maximal outcomes for families, you need to have 2 biological parents raising their kids in the same home. Now, there's a ton of other studies I could show you, like family wellness studies and the CDC study on adverse family experiences among children and non-parental care, and more that show the optimal conditions for raising a child is exactly what you would expect, exactly what nature dictates: a mom and a dad, biological parents raising a kid in their home. But all arguments aside, this subject at the end of the day really just comes down to this: the simple fact that a gay couple believes that their right to own a child supersedes the child's right to have a mother, which really does tell you all you need to know about this subject. This isn't about children. It isn't about their well-being. It isn't about cherry-picking data done by gay activists to try to convince you that biology and nature really doesn't matter. It's about the narcissism of homosexuality and the sexual proclivities that weight everything else out of existence. So I know the answer before we start to the question, and I'm not interested in indulging the narcissism of any person, much less at the expense of a child. So the real question is, are you, as a Christian, willing to let this happen on your watch? 2 children just so that you don't get called a homophobe or a bigot. Will you also be so narcissistic that you refuse to stand for the truth, all because your self-image is far more important than the truth? So I can answer that question for myself, and my answer is no. You can call me names all day long. I will defend a child's right to have a biological mother and a father, and if necessary, a well-adjusted adoptive mom and dad to raise a child. I will stand for real marriage between a man and a woman. Silly little tricks and cherry-picked arguments don't work on me, and they never will. And you can never penetrate the mind of a person anyway that's been indoctrinated by facts, logic, biology, nature, and most of all, God's holy word. All right, thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And if this show is beneficial to you, you'll love becoming a member over at indiethinker.org/support. You can gain access to ebooks, audiobooks, movies, documentaries, and so much more that will help you go deeper in your faith and do so in an entertaining way. So go to indiethinker.org/support to sign up. Don't forget to check out the sponsors down below in the description of this podcast. But most importantly, go with God.